It's Thursday, December 22nd, and this is now on H&N.
Get ahead of the storm or maybe wait it out and not travel until its impacts are behind us.
A first alert to a powerful winter storm that's moving through parts of the mainland, threatening holiday travel plans for millions of Americans.
And breaking news from Washington, the Senate passes a $1.7 trillion bill to fund the government and aid Ukraine.
Prices starting to level off a bit.
And a real estate expert explains how Oahu's housing market is changing in the new year.
All these stories plus will introduce you to some very unique help Santa is getting this Christmas. That's coming up on This Is Now. Good afternoon. Welcome to This Is Now. You got Jonathan and Mark right here in the H&N Digital Center. So if you are planning to head on a jet plane this holiday season, pack your patience.
That's because travelers here at home and across the country are running into mounting delays and cancellations. Dylan Ancheta is live at Honolulu International Airport with the latest. Dylan.
Yeah, this is exactly what you said, Jonathan. Pack your patience. The story today is these ongoing delays that have really been plaguing travelers since Monday. Of course, locally, we've had that massive storm, that winter storm that barreled over the state, causing major delays and cancellations across the board. And today, some of those effects are still lingering. I'm going to step out of the way. If you can take a look at that flight board right there, there's some red. It's not as bad as previous days, but there is some red up there. A lot of the flights that are delayed are heading to the mainland. There are a couple inter-island flights that are delayed, but most of it, again, is heading toward the mainland. Now, officials say that today's situation is actually better than what it was this time last week, of course, because of that winter storm that came through. However, we are still feeling the effects. This is caused by not only that winter storm, crews are still scrambling to get flights back on track. It's kind of like a domino effect, essentially, especially with that severe bout of turbulence that injured 36 people on that flight to Hawaii. Some crew members from Hawaiian Airlines were injured in that. And so, of course, again, it's all about scrambling and making sure the flights have enough staffers to ensure safe travel. I spoke with one family who was heading back to California after their vacation. Here's what they said.
So we were supposed to leave, I believe, at 1. Now we're, or 1:20. Yeah, now I believe we're at 2, and then now it kept changing. 15 minutes, 30-minute delay, so we just decided to get here early, and we're just going to wait and see what happens.
Now, once again, the cause of these delays, it's mainly due to weather, but there is also the aspect of getting crews where they need to be, essentially, playing catch up. Nationwide, there have been over 5,000 cancellations reported today alone by FlightAware, and some 18,000 delays. Again, that is nationwide. Here in the islands, here at Honolulu International Airport, there have been at least 92 delays as of about 11:30 and 11 cancellations here out of Honolulu's International Airport. Now, back out here live, this area, this terminal has actually kind of calmed down just a little bit. There was a long line for people to check in their bags, but of course, if you are heading out here, one of your big concerns is going to be the TSA lines. I checked the wait times here in Honolulu. It's about 40 minutes. Over on Kauai, 42 minutes. On Maui, it's not as bad. There's about 30 minutes of a wait there. And of course, in Hilo, it's smooth sailing down on the Big Island. But for now, here we will be definitely keeping an eye on everything happening here at H&L and across the state. So again, if you are traveling, be sure to pack your patience. Guys, back to you.
All right, Dylan and Cheta, thanks so much for that live report. I know you're going to be keeping track of that all day for us here at H&N. But we have more team coverage about that winter weather right now. Let's turn things over to CBS's Chris Van Cleave.
Sounds good to get stuck in Jamaica, but...
The bomb cyclone is blowing up Theo and Nicole Williams' beach vacation. They're skipping out early to beat the storm home for Christmas.
Whatever plans we have, we want them to be our plans, not the weather's plans or the airport's plans.
It's half the country.
In the Department of Transportation's Operations Center, Secretary Pete Buttigieg and his team are monitoring the potential impacts as some of the nation's busiest airports sit in the path of blizzard-like conditions.
That's not a great weather outlook up there.
No, what you're seeing there is a lot of impacts on some of our key hubs.
By early Thursday morning, hundreds of today's flights were already canceled at Chicago O'Hare.
This storm will end up being the storm that steals Christmas.
I hope not, but look, this is going to affect millions and millions of travelers. We're also doing what we can to get the word out about options that travelers have to get ahead of the storm or maybe wait it out and not travel until its impacts are behind us.
Some 113 million people are expected to travel at least 50 miles this holiday as snow and frigid temperatures push across the country, blanketing streets outside Minneapolis. Here in Wyoming, state troopers battled negative 18-degree temperatures and zero visibility, responding to more than 100 crashes. In Georgia, it's bracing for a rare hard freeze as Arkansas plans to treat roads ahead of possible wintry mix in the Deep South.
The most important thing is to be safe, and that might mean taking a little time or delaying a plan.
Airlines expect cancellations to mount as the day goes on Thursday. They say one good thing here is they saw a real spike in people taking advantage of all those travel waivers and changing their flights. So hopefully fewer people will be impacted by the mounting cancellations. Chris Van Cleve, CBS News, Reagan National Airport, Virginia.
Well, big news in D.C. today as the Senate passed a $1.7 trillion spending bill, thus averting a government shutdown. It will now go to the House, where it will most likely be approved. Now, to help us break it all down is Hawaii News Now Washington correspondent Peter Zampa. Peter, thank you so much for joining us. We'll dive right into it. What are the highlights of this package, and where is the money going?
Yeah, Mark, it's a massive package, 4,100 pages that finally passed through the Senate after voting on 17 different amendments after some late night drama, as always. But there's a lot of stuff in here. Namely, though, is $47 billion for Ukraine and their war effort. That is a big deal for them, especially coming off the visit by President Zelensky. He goes home with a gift, $47 billion more. Not everyone's happy about that amount, but it is in this package. There's a lot of other stuff in here, like disaster relief is also going to go to a lot of communities. That's a huge deal. Folks are still struggling with the aftermath of hurricanes, wildfires, things like that. So once the House clears this, either tonight, late tonight, or early tomorrow morning, folks can go home for the holidays. Shutdown averted.
So the January 6th committee is making more headlines today. What is the latest on that front?
Yeah, so we're still waiting on their final report. We were expecting it yesterday, then all the madness with President Zelensky happened, so it was supposed to get kicked to today. We still don't quite have it, but they are releasing different things as we go. Today we got the transcripts from the testimony from Cassidy Hutchinson. She was a former aide to the former chief of staff, Mark Meadows. And I don't know if folks will remember, but when she testified in front of the committee, a lot of folks thought this was the bombshell that this committee had been waiting for. A lot of interesting stuff in there, including that she was pressured by some folks on the Trump team to not testify before the committee because she had a lot of things to say on President Trump's actions on the day of January 6th, on whether he wanted to go to the Capitol or not. So this was transcript that kind of shed more light on her thinking, on the White House's thinking, and on the White House efforts to get her to not testify.
So many different layers, so many different complexities to all of it. So we are awaiting the report on that. To wrap it all up, I'm going to circle back to President Zelensky's visit yesterday. Had the joint press conference with President Biden and then the address to Congress. How are lawmakers responding?
Yeah, Mark, I think across the board, folks on Capitol Hill recognize that this was a historic moment, no matter how you feel about this war effort and the U.S.'s part in it. But you have a lot of Democrats saying this was a moment they will never forget. You know, images of Winston Churchill testifying during World War II, addressing Congress during World War II, coming back to them and saying that we want to do all we can to help not just Ukraine, but the entire world. That was a message that Zelensky made last night, and it resonated with a lot of folks. But you also have Republicans saying, look, we're happy to help, but we want to know where this money is going. And when Republicans get control of the House of Representatives next year, you can expect that to be the narrative, that if you want any more money in this war effort from the United States of America, we are going to do more oversight. We are going to get more accountability for where those dollars go. So mixed reactions on how the U.S. should help, but everyone recognizes this was a historic moment.
Even as the holidays approach, so much happening on Capitol Hill. Hawaii News Now Washington correspondent Peter Zampa, thank you very much. We appreciate your insight. Have a great one.
Yeah, thanks. You too, Mark.
Let's stick with politics here on This Is Now for a bit longer. You know, of the many stories that broke over the year, the midterm elections were certainly front and center, a key political battle which will have implications on 2023 and beyond. Let's turn things over now to Steve Kornacki, who's breaking things down for us by the numbers.
All right, well, we started 2022 asking if there'd be a big Republican wave. We end 2022 knowing that there wasn't. Republicans do get control of the House, but they get it by a very slim margin, and they end up losing a Senate seat. So what happened? What did we learn from this midterm cycle? Well, one thing that I think really stands out is Joe Biden, Democrats had a good midterm cycle politically, relatively speaking, in spite of the unpopularity of the president, 44%. This number is from the exit poll on Election Day, only a 44% job approval rating for Biden. You know, we've been trained, we've seen in modern elections, this kind of number for a president in a midterm election has always, in modern times, meant political catastrophe for the president's party. I mean, just take a look here. These are recent presidents. This is their approval rating during midterm elections. Trump in 2018, Barack Obama in 14 and in 10, George W. Bush in 2006. Their approval ratings all basically right where Joe Biden's was this year. And you remember, 18 was a disaster for Republicans. They lost 40 seats in the House. 14 was a disaster for Democrats, especially on the Senate side. They lost 9 Senate seats. In that House 13-seat loss for Democrats in 2014, they didn't have that many seats left to lose. Otherwise, that number probably would have been bigger. 63-seat loss in 2010, 30-seat loss for Republicans, and big on the Senate side. This is what a low approval rating has meant in modern times. And Biden's number, a lot of Republicans were expecting, a lot of Democrats were fearing it was going to mean something similarly politically catastrophic, and yet it didn't. Why? What broke in Democrats' favor? Well, I think what really stands out is this. What you're looking at here is the independent vote in the midterm elections, and Democrats actually won the independent vote by 2 points. And all of these recent presidents we were just going through who had rough midterm elections, you see in their midterms, the independents broke for the opposition party by double digits. That's what we've kind of been conditioned to expect. If a president is unpopular, the independents go to the opposition party, and they do it in big numbers. They didn't do that this year, even though Biden still wasn't that popular. So let's dig into those numbers a little bit more. Let's take a look at independents. And again, I say Biden was not that popular. That was especially true with independent voters. 60% of independents said in the exit poll they got an unfavorable view of Biden, a majority an unfavorable view of the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party, Joe Biden, not popular with independents. But you can see it here. The Republican Party, and especially Donald Trump, even less popular, significantly less popular with independent voters. So I think you start to see here, we typically think of these midterm elections, it's a referendum on the president, a referendum on the president's party. That's typically how they've run. I think there was probably a referendum aspect here on the opposition party and the man who most recently led the opposition party this year. It's a dynamic you don't usually have in midterm elections. Also, take a look at this. When you ask, talk about the role of Donald Trump, his sort of lingering presence in the center stage of American politics, the January 6th hearings this summer, asking independent voters about the state of democracy. Nearly 3/4 said they feel democracy is threatened. And just look at how these voters split. Those independents who said democracy is threatened went for Democrats by a 16-point margin. Those who said they consider it secure voted for Republicans by a 6-point margin. And just a lot more independents said they considered democracy threatened. So an unusual result. An unpopular president and his party wins the independent vote and staves off what I think a lot of people that started this year expected to be a political disaster for Democrats. Instead, they gain a seat in the House and they come within 5 in the Senate, and they come within 5 of hanging on to the House.
Now to an update on the state's dynamic housing market. Here's Howard Dykes.
Chad Takasue joins us from Locations. And we were talking about the November figures, which just came out a few days ago. How does it look to you, the effect of mortgage rates going up to about roughly double where they were a year ago?
Well, it's definitely impacted people's affordability. So they have to relook at what kind of financing is available to them. And so you're starting to see that play out in the marketplace where prices starting to level off a bit in many markets, and number of sales significantly down from last year.
Yeah, that's interesting. There are only a couple of neighborhoods where the median price actually fell, and it didn't fall much, 1%, 3%, not enough to really help. But there is a really powerful trend of people saying, screw it, I'm not even putting my property on the market.
Yeah, no, I mean, the sellers, are really looking at that. You're seeing some price reductions in the marketplace too. So sellers are starting to get a little more realistic about where the market's at. And so, yeah, it's just that transition period to a more normal market compared to last year, which was a really frantic market,
That's an interesting psychological point you bring up. You think it may just take a few months for prospective sellers to get used to the idea that they're not going to make a fortune selling like before?
Yeah, you can't just throw a sticker price out there and see where it falls anymore. You got to know your markets. You got to price accordingly, and that's the normal market. And that's where some markets will be hotter than others, and competition will be stronger in some, and opposite in the others. So it's really now a market where you have to know your information about your particular neighborhood.
Now, in normal times, if somebody is financially incapable of buying a single-family home, sometimes what they'll do is punt and get a condo instead. Are you seeing some of that right now?
Yeah, we're starting to see. We've started to see that from this summer. Once interest rates goes up, it basically drops a person down to a different price tier, and so the condo option becomes a feasible option. And sometimes it's not even a condo. If it's really a single family, then it might be a different neighborhood for them than they were previously looking. So, but the condo market usually sees a bump after the single family market corrects. So,
what do you think is going to happen in January, February, March?
I think we'll continue to see this price leveling, but buyers are starting to get educated about different alternative financing. So instead of the traditional 30-year mortgage, they're starting to get educated about what an ARM is and how can I acquire financing in the near term at a different interest rate.
Okay, we'll continue to follow this for you. It certainly is a developing story.
All right, continuing our coverage here live in the H&N Digital Center. Want to take you live somewhere. Check this out, Mark. Yuck.
Winter Wonderland.
Yeah, that's Kansas City, Missouri, right there, the Show Me State, and it is showing us some -4-degree temperatures right now live as we look at this shot right here.
The Chiefs are playing this weekend, and the slated temperature at kickoff is supposed to be -6.
Oh,
so
no way.
Those are the kind of conditions we're talking about here.
And that's in so much of the country right now, and we'll be giving you first alert to just that situation all afternoon long here at H&N for anyone has loved ones on the mainland or looking to travel that way. Look how slow that traffic is moving there on the street as well. All right, getting an even closer update of our weather situation. Here's our Guy Hockey.
We have passing storms to the north, and that's really the key. Those will keep those trade winds at bay. And notice the winds are going to be light, trending from the south occasionally. The next chance for trade winds looks like coming back in sometime around Tuesday, but they won't be all that strong. So your 7-day forecast is very calm, very quiet. It's a nice run of weather, especially coming off of that very stormy weather that we saw on Monday. So we've got variable winds today. In fact, variable winds all the way into the early part of next week. So for Christmas Day, likely we'll see the same weather. Morning sunshine, afternoon clouds, a few minor splashes out there. Yeah, it's going to be absolutely gorgeous for the next several days.
All right, time of the show where we take a check of what the internet is buzzing about today. And let's start with this. I just finished this series recently, Wednesday. Yeah, viewers can't get enough of this show. Wednesday Addams is the focus of it there on Netflix. Nielsen's ratings reports that Wednesday was watched for nearly 6 billion minutes. That's almost a minute per person, or at least like 45 seconds.
That's how the metrics are working now in the age of streaming. So it's very cool that there's still something to keep track of.
Yeah, exactly. And that was just in its first week of streaming on the platform. This marks the second biggest week of streaming ever recorded. For Nielsen's data, it topped the most recent season of Stranger Things. Yeah, I'm really digging Wednesday. It was pretty easy to watch. I'm sure they're going to have a season 2. I don't know if I'll dive into that, but the first season was really nice, and it's gone so viral with its like dancing and TikTok in that generation. There's all sorts of Wednesday things being posted
And
right
a ton
now.
of star power in the show as well, right?
Definitely. Catherine Zeta-Jones, even playing Morticia. Now I have the TikTok song in my head right now. Dance, dance, dance. You know what I'm talking
it's a great
about.
franchise,
Okay.
so it's good to see the recall there. And, also what's being talked about right now is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has announced there will not be a Black Adam sequel. Made $400 million worldwide, but not enough for a part 2. Johnson announced on social media he met with DC Studios leadership, and while there won't be another full-length Black Adam film, they are exploring ways to utilize him in the DC multiverse. And so what we're seeing now with the superhero movies is all these crossovers and all these different cameos. And
It's gone too far, in my opinion. It's too much to keep track of.
Truly is. The multiverse is the appropriate word for it because it's kind of just all over the place, right?
The infinite verse, because it goes on and on and on, and it's too much.
So you'll still be seeing the character. What was also announced today, big news from the world of streaming and sports. The NFL says there is a new deal for its Sunday ticket service with Google starting next season. It'll be offered as an add-on package for YouTube TV. The move ends a partnership with DirecTV, which had been the home of Sunday Ticket since 1994. Sunday Ticket allows fans to watch out-of-market games, which is just excellent to have, the fact that you can watch any and every game. Google is reportedly paying $2.5 billion per year for the right. So just goes to show how hot of a commodity it is.
Oh, yeah. And a lot of football this weekend, I assume, too.
Ton of football. Full slate of games as we're getting into the end of the regular season. Trying to get some clarity on the playoff picture.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, some cold games out there.
Brutally cold all over, not just in Kansas City.
You know, someone who appreciates the cold, Santa and his helpers, and those helpers come in all forms. Let's turn things over now to CBS's Helena Humphreys with today's Good News Now.
When it comes to spreading Christmas cheer, it seems there are no depths too deep for Santa's helpers. Including swimming with sharks in Rio de Janeiro. Felipe says that seeing the sparkle in the children's eyes is pure Christmas magic. And who knew Santa's helpers were so at ease on the water, swapping the sleigh for paddleboards in the French city of Strasbourg. Helpers in Spain, though, went to great heights to reach this hospital and drop off gifts for children in over the holidays. Jose says they have to ease Santa's helper down because while he's good at flying, he's a little more clumsy when it comes to the ropes. Maybe he's been taking tips from those who don't seem to mind a bumpy ride, like Santa's helper in Jerusalem, accompanied by the US ambassador.
We want to wish everyone a Merry Christmas. May peace on earth.
Now it's up, up and away to get ready for his big trip around the world. Helena Humphrey, CBS News, London.
Santa and his helpers already making the rounds. Just
Getting into crunch time.
Yeah, right? Just a couple weeks ago, I saw him at Waikiki coming in on the canoe.
Yeah.
I got to see that. First year I've ever got to see that happen.
Yeah, and of course, yesterday we had the story running from North Pole, Alaska, and so we're getting into the final stretch here where it really just gets ramps up and it's so busy.
Which means I have to make my last-minute run to the mall today, so look out for me there. I'll be running through. Maybe I should wear a helmet.
Good
I
luck
don't
on
know.
the parking.
Yes, yeah, I know, right? All right, guys, that's it for This Is Now. Dylan will have an update from the airport coming up at First at 4 with Mark Carpenter as well. So have a safe and wonderful afternoon. Happy shopping. Good
See you
luck.
then.